Well, there are two banthas down there, but I don't see any... Wait a second. They're sand people, all right. I can see one of them now.
It's Murray. Murray takes it in. Touchdown, Raiders. Fourth rushing touchdown of the season for Latavius Murray, and Oakland is finally on the board here in the third quarter. Not so much. First and goal, empty backfield. Stafford, quarterback draw, in for a touchdown.
Holding, offense, number 72. The penalty occurred in the end zone, therefore by rule, it is a safety.
And now
So it's time once again for Sustained Pride Podcast. It's the rundown. Lions stacking wins. Matt Stafford gets his 19th career comeback victory.
Just win, baby.
Rod Wood hired as team president.
Who is he?
And the Lions make national news by dropping longtime broadcast partner. So guys, we're stacking wins. 2 wins in a row. Something we haven't done in a long time.
My predictions are in shambles. I can't keep up with this team.
I don't like predictions, but I have to tell you, I'm going to come out and say I was the one who was right out of the 3 of us.
Yeah. Mike Mady, it's always good to see you, but there's no clarity in this team. What is going on? How are we winning games? I thought Oakland was pretty decent coming into this one.
Oakland is still a good team, but they're like...
Are we sure?
They're good.
We're sure.
Yeah.
I think so.
The game could have been different. There's a couple
I'm
of
not
small
sure
plays.
about anything after watching this game. I'm just so unsure. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I watched.
I mean, the Lions they're kind of doing what they did last year. They're hanging around and they're making it. They're scoring when it counts, I guess. And so that's what they did last year. The defense is playing a lot better, which is helping a ton. The offense is kind of doing what it's been doing, but they've made minor improvements and they've got a couple W's to show for it. But
cutting down on turnovers, cutting the fat. Yeah.
A lot less turnovers. Offensive line is playing a lot better.
Night and day.
Yeah, a lot better.
0 sacks.
So,
right?
so
No sacks this game?
3 sacks, I think.
Oh, that was last week. There was no sacks.
in the last 2 weeks, 4 sacks.
Total?
Stafford was hit 7 times in the last 2 weeks.
There's
That's
a lot
still
better.
a lot better.
That's a lot better. A lot better.
You're
Now,
going to have sacks and hits. It's going to happen.
no, yeah, for sure.
And Stafford, at least 1 or 2 times a game, is making a scramble play that is successful instead of a turnover.
So since we're talking about, I kind of want to get to this question. A lot of stuff came out when Lombardi was fired about the fact that they had to dumb down the offense for Stafford because his IQ was not there. It wasn't up to par. And now, this week, we hear that the offensive line strategy was dumbed down a little bit. They're just kind of going out there and it's like, go out there, play, cover your man. Stafford's in charge of making all the reads. So now we're hearing the polar opposite. I don't know who to believe. I feel like I'm on the side of believing that Stafford isn't the dummy that everybody made him out to seem like, because we've got 2 wins and the offensive line is playing a lot better.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, there was a lot of refuting inside of Allen Park of the reports that they had done on the offense for Stafford. Even post being fired, Lombardi said, that's not true. I don't know where that came from. And he has no obligation to the team at that point anymore.
Class act.
So,
on his way out. That's all it is.
For someone that has interacted with Stafford from a football perspective a ton, he seems very knowledgeable about football, and I don't think that I think dumbed down is such almost a condescending term.
Oh, definitely it is.
Yeah, and it might
And I
not
think it was
necessarily. I don't think that it's possible that it wasn't meant to be. Like,
I think that the way that the media kind of reacted to it, it definitely was meant to be.
Yeah,
it was a catalyst to start talking about it.
It could have been one of those just misspoken. If you hand.
It's a game of telephone.
I don't think he's like the smartest guy. Like, he's no game caller in the huddle and stuff like that. He's not gonna take over a game with his mind.
I think he's a really high football IQ. Stafford.
He certainly doesn't have a low or under average.
No, he's definitely. We talked about, like, we all kind of agree. He's above average. He's not middle
From an intelligence standpoint,
Yeah.
I think he's really strong. I mean, intelligence sometimes isn't the same as in the heat of the moment recognition of a play and stuff. I mean, that could be tough, but he knows what's going on. He grasps it. He has a comprehensive understanding of what's going on.
There are different forms of high football IQ. You might be able to walk up to the line, recognize the defensive play, but then not make the quick decision in terms of your throw or the right decision in terms of what play you audible to. And that might make you look stupid, you know what I mean? You might still be able to read the defense.
He just seems like he's coming out now, and maybe it's the pressure's off and whatnot, but he's coming out, he looks a lot more comfortable.
He does look more comfortable, and I think that I think it's true that I know it's true that they've simplified the blocking schemes. Players told me after the game that they acknowledged it. Stafford said that a lot more onus is on him and the receivers for sights and hot routes and these types of things. So I think that instead of not knowing exactly how the protections were called prior to, it seems like there is a little bit more on the shoulders of not just Stafford, but on the receivers to find a way to get open, to get rid of the ball quicker, and the offensive line isn't enabled to just do their job, and you could see more comfort. You could see them picking up stunts.
And I honestly believe that this week and last week it was the offensive line. Stafford will play like this all the time. Any game this season, he'll play like this, as long as he can stand up for, like I was counting on the one play, 5 seconds. And he couldn't find anyone open. And we were talking about it. It wasn't Stafford's fault. No one was open.
Yeah.
And it ended up being that it was because there was a holding call on the play and the defender was cheating, but...
And you kind of look at the offensive line, you look at the pickup of Ola, and he just was tossed in there. His first start of the season, and he was tasked with having to take on Khalil Mack. Someone we were talking about, someone we were scared.
Yeah.
And
they gave him
he
help.
did a pretty good job.
They gave him help. He did as good as job as he needed to get the win.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mack ended up having still a pretty good game, and
he had 8 tackles.
There was a few plays where it looked like if there wasn't running back protection help, he probably would have gotten a couple more hits on Stafford, but Mack and the defense for Oakland didn't really seem like a big factor, and we were able to probably have one of our more successful running games on them too.
It was definitely one of the more successful running games. I think that Ola,
still not good enough, but yeah.
Ola was one-on-one with Mack more than a lot of people. I think he did a great job.
He did what he needed to do. He did his job consistently.
Considering the expectations you have for him, and considering the fact that Khalil Mack is developing into an elite pass rusher in the NFL, I was blown away by how well Ola played, given those expectations. And I think if you talk about some of the best offensive performances, Ola's got to be in the conversation.
Definitely, and that's exactly what I was thinking too.
And to that, we'll talk about maybe our offensive MVP, or you called it champ of the game.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. I was going to go out and say that I thought Michael Ola was close to being the offensive MVP. Obviously, Matt Stafford, he had his 19th comeback, and Matt Stafford is the easy pick. I feel like
it's so hard to say
but
an offensive lineman is going to be a game MVP, and if you ask any offensive lineman, I think the league, they wouldn't be. I think most offensive linemen really put a lot of onus on running the ball, and that's something that every offensive lineman would love to do, and they couldn't really do it. I don't think anyone averaged over 4.
But we did get 109 yards.
Out of a couple freak plays from Stafford where, his rushing added a lot to it out of the pass. So
I think I agree with you on that too, but I feel like short strides.
Definitely.
Look at the end of the game where they needed to move, they needed to waste clock, and they did it.
And that's one of the things I think I pointed at earlier in the season. How if you're winning at the end of the game, how are you supposed to run down the clock if you have no run game?
Exactly.
And at the very least, they've gotten to the point where they can hand joke the ball, and we're going to get some yards out of it. We're going to win the game. You know what I mean?
A 7-minute drive.
We did, and we had a few long drives in this game too, because we had a little bit of a running game going. But I think that if we asked anyone on the offensive line, they're not happy with their rushing performance still.
No, it's not. It's not great. It's getting better.
It's definitely getting better.
It's getting better. And I think the team as a whole is getting better.
From a pass protection point of view, we talked about like if you're going to take on a big name guy, and you have a game where you shut him down all game, there's nothing like you did your job. That's the best praise you can give to a lineman is you did your job all game long.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the offensive line just seems like they're working together, and it's fresh. It's looking good. It's looking like what we wanted it to look like. It's unfortunate that it had to come 8 games later, but
and I think if we're talking about offensive MVP, our one touchdown was to Stafford credited to Jim Bob. Jim Bob Cooter said he gave him the option to spread it out and leave the quarterback draw up to Stafford. Told the offensive line to block towards the outside. Swanson, I think it was, went and picked up
it was
the middle linebacker.
Talking with the lead blocker,
Yeah.
It was Warford.
Was it Warford?
That's why I know that he had the option to throw, but I think it was like almost expected to be a
No,
run.
I think they probably had the option. Then pre-snap, Stafford probably said, "Okay," probably gave whatever signal it was to the offensive line. And
was it a play designed for? Well, I guess he had 2 options, but I think Calvin was the primary.
he said 3. Stafford,
was it 3?
Stafford quoted that there was 3 options.
They probably had like a bubble screen to the left with that bunch. But the thing that I mean, for me, if they end up throwing the ball, they have to be careful about an ineligible man downfield because Warford just kind of went.
But that's where I think that Stafford probably walked up to the line, saw the middle of the
maybe it
field
was
wide
a
open.
pre-snap read, yeah.
100% it had to have been a pre-snap.
Because otherwise you get tagged with a penalty.
100%,
potentially.
yeah.
Unless he gets rid of the ball instantly, which also could have been the option.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think that if you're going to say that's kind of where I was going to lean to. I know that it's almost a cop because I said Terrell Austin last week.
No,
but
but we can continue on that trend for weeks to come. And we can
Jim
just-
Bob and Ron Prince, give it to them. Ron Prince has simplified the offensive line. I don't know who is more responsible for that, him or Jim Bob, but I think that the comfortable
to see this kind of turnaround with just a bye week under your belt to try and change the offense so drastically is so impressive. I can't believe how fast they've turned the offense into something that is clicking.
I mean, it's not like exploding yet, but you can
But
see
it's
the
clicking.
signs.
And
yeah.
the fact that it went from worst in the league now to like winning games against decent teams. Like the past 2 teams we played might not be the best in the NFL, but they're certainly teams that have scary players, good players, decent coaching, and we're winning these games. And in the Green Bay scenario, we kind of got lucky and we had a lot of breaks go our way. But in this game, we ended the game. We won offense on the field the way you want to do it.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's something nice to see. And I don't know, as a Lions fan, obviously, I'm happy in the way that it's trending. This is something I'd hoped for. So ultimately, it's great, and I guess great offense is a great defense.
It wasn't,
and
it
our
wasn't the
defense,
scenario.
our defense. Let's kind of touch on that. Over the last couple of weeks has been pretty good.
I thought we're really
They've
good.
done a pretty decent job. What do you think, Mike?
I think they've obviously we talk a lot about the offense, myself included, but the catalyst has been the defense the last 2 weeks. They've done a great job. The Packers have a decent defense. The Raiders even don't have even what's considered to be a very strong defense, except for a couple of really good players, and even down one of their top players.
Mm-hmm.
The defense stepped up 2 weeks in a row against high-powered offenses. And, I think that it's been impressive with, like, interchangeable parts of defensive tackle. You have Kyrie Robinson and these guys.
And secondary players left and right on IR.
Yeah.
You have third backups in. And Diggs, who's starting to look like he's getting recognition down, starting to play a lot faster. Lawson, who's been up and down, but he's filling the role that we need him to fill.
Lawson seems like he's had some issues maybe, but they haven't completed a lot of passes at him. So you can't hate on the result.
No.
And if I'm going to segue into defensive, Darius Slay has been unbelievable.
I think that if
Quietly, really good. the
yeah,
last
as
couple
much
of
as
weeks.
I was upset with the way that he's kind of showboating and everything like that, but now, like I said, he's like you're saying, he's becoming that strong.
But I don't think for a second that he's not as cocky as he
Oh, for sure he is.
was when he
No,
started.
for sure he is. He said he's 1,000%.
Difference is now he's settling down, and it's like maybe he's just getting to the point in this season because He's done it for past seasons. He's getting to the point where he's comfortably shutting down guys.
One catch this week. He allowed one catch.
He didn't
for 8
allow
yards
that. He didn't allow that catch.
Crabtree. But I'm saying though,
if it's
there was
credited to
only
him,
one catch credited to him for 8 yards.
Those are good numbers.
It's fantastic. Over the last couple of weeks, he's been shut down.
That's where you want to be.
James
elite.
Jones didn't catch anything against him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he died. I don't remember the last time the Lions had a cornerback that shadowed the top receiver. Didn't play one side of the field. And there's no way you can't look at Darius Slay and think that. I mean, I don't know for sure, but like 3 years from now, he might not be the best cornerback in the NFL. He could be. I'm not saying he will be, but
he's playing.
Nothing that would stop him.
The last 2 weeks, he's definitely playing up to the level that he would want to play, and you would want your cornerback to play.
Is he like a unanimous choice for defensive champ?
I would think for me, he would share it with Bynes only because he wasn't thrown to a lot, which is another good thing you would want to be said about you as a cornerback. You don't want the quarterback to even throw to you because your coverage is so good. But Bynes made a touchdown-saving tackle, and they ended up getting a touchdown on the next play, which he also was trying to make the tackle on, and because he had no help. I mean, he just, week in and week out, he's making massive tackles, especially in goal line situations, and I'm super excited to see what he does continuing throughout his career for sure.
And Mike, what do you think? Terrell Austin is the co-MVP for this week to go back.
The three of them can make it a party.
They could make it a party. It's a solid trio.
Even when you talk to the defensive players, like they very seldomly don't bring up Terrell Austin. They talk to Jason Jones after the game, and I talked to him about the fact that they're blitzing more, the fact that they've improved so much since the bye week, and he kept going back to, Terrell Austin focused on this for us. He wanted us to get more pressure. We talked about how much pride we needed to have in ourselves after last year and that type of stuff. So consistently, more than any other coach on the team, Terrell Austin's name is brought up by the players he touches.
If Terrell Austin isn't with this organization next season, he will be in the NFL somewhere as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be in the NFL no matter what next season.
And now it kind of leads me into the question I've been holding, and I kind of want to ask, and I'm going to jump in on it now. So, with a couple of wins, a lot of people are kind of talking about the fact that the Lions are probably going to stand pat where they're at in terms of front office, potentially with Sheldon White maybe taking over, or the interim tag just being extended, and Jim Caldwell staying, and everything kind of just basically staying the same if they can keep winning these games. What do you guys think? Because I'm for it only for the fact in terms of Caldwell, because I don't want to lose Terrell Austin. That's where I'm looking at it. It's like, because the odds of a new GM coming in, firing Caldwell and keeping Austin, unless it's as head coach, is it's very improbable. It seems like
it wouldn't be unprecedented though.
It's not. But I think that the probability of it is fairly low. And even Jim Bob Cooter, like I like what I'm seeing out of him, and it's like I want these two pieces here. I don't know if I want Caldwell, but I want these two pieces. What do you guys think?
This could be at the end of the day, this story could be a tragedy and not a successful one for next season, and that like they just happen to be in the scenario where you can't really argue about changes too much, because they did fail pretty miserably at the beginning of the season. And I say it's a tragedy because these guys might be able to like put together a winning team and be a part of a winning organization. I think they're all, so far, they look like, especially Terrell Austin. I've been tooting his freaking horn since week one. I love him. Like, I think that's what I'm saying. Like, if he goes somewhere else, it sucks, because I think he'll stay in the NFL, and I think he'll be a successful defensive coordinator.
Whatever works is probably the best way to put it. If it's hard to say, like, if it's working, then keep it.
Yeah.
And if you have a better option, then go for it. But like, I think that people have too many preconceived notions. I hate Caldwell because he lost 7 of the first 8 games. Like, well, is he the best coach? Then keep him. I don't know who your alternative options are going to be. I don't know. You same with Sheldon White. I don't know who your alternative options are going to be. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the meeting rooms with these guys. I can only see what they present to the media. I can only see the product on the field. I can tell you that the product on the field seems to be getting better. And if Martha Ford, if the people that she enlists to make these decisions, etc., spend the appropriate amount of time with these guys, and they could see the talent, they could see the contributions that they can make to the team, then keep them.
It seems like Caldwell himself and Martha Ford have like a really great relationship, and that she talks pretty highly of him.
And I think too, it seems it's starting to trend where the people who, after the 1-7 start, everybody was, fire Caldwell, fire everybody.
Yeah.
And now people are still kind of like, okay, so, obviously we kind of skipped over it. They hired Rod Wood. Their national search for a GM and president led to a person whose office currently, before taking the position, was at Ford Field. And so that kind of bothered some people.
We should probably mention that he doesn't have a football background. Yeah, he's not coming from a football background. He's coming from working as an executive at Ford.
Yes.
He seems to be, like we were saying, he kind of has a few. He speaks and messes up his speech. He will say some things that aren't too bright.
Yeah, I think it definitely some things that'll raise the ire of Detroit Lions fans.
The quote was, "I don't think I could be the president of any other NFL team, but I can be this team's president."
And that's because of my relationship with Martha Ford.
Like, I think that as an executive, you're probably taught, and I think he's a Michigan alum too.
Oh, is he?
So probably a well-educated guy. I think you're probably taught to kind of watch your words, and it's something that this organization, in terms of press, we want to talk about press, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but this organization seems to have or put a lot of importance on what people say, and saying something like that, it's just don't do it. You don't have to talk about that.
No, exactly. Especially even too after coming out and saying a national search, and then the first person you hire is someone that already works for one of your parent companies. Makes it difficult for Lions fans to not worry. And I think that's where people started to worry about the fact that well, is change really going to come, or is them starting to win?
A successful organization probably wouldn't even be talking about who our team president was just hired. We would just trust the organization. But I think there's a lack of trust within the organization. So a bit of a rocky start with him, but
let's hope that. I don't know the ins and outs of what his duties are as president. I do know that, when Lalonde was fired, they kind of came out that he's more the cap guy and the numbers, a business guy. So this guy might be a fantastic business person that has no, knowledge for football, but knows numbers, and we'll see. We'll
see about him down the line.
He's not going to be the one making draft choices and signing for agents. He'll probably deal with HR issues, and he'll probably look at revenue, and he'll look at costs and balancing spreadsheets and these. I mean, I think that, and plus, wherever he's coming from, I don't know how much experience he has dealing with the media. How much his words might be taken out of context and stuff. At the end of the day, I think it's a non-issue.
He was hired 8 years ago from a national search, so technically, according to his words, it was a long national search, but the Lions did find their president from a national search. And that's coming from him again, too. I know I'm poking fun at him, and I really have no idea.
And you say it's unimportant, and it probably is, but he's a cog in the machine that is the Detroit Lions right now, and he's a part of our organization. And when you have failed for so long, I think that every position, even Rhonda in security.
Yeah,
you're gonna hear y'all ain't supposed to be in here. But I just think that keep your mouth shut. Go do your job at this point.
No, true. I just feel like it's the Lions fan in me, or you're looking for change, and I think as much change as you're looking for, I have the feeling that there's not going to be a lot of change. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be a bad thing.
That could be a great thing.
Because the way that things are going right now, you know what I mean? As much as I know we've had this, discussion, and, you want him to tank, but you don't want to say you want him to tank because you want the high draft pick. But I was always upon the feeling that you need to build.
I would never use the word tank, and I would never want to see a football team that I would root for, any sort of sports team that I would root for, not go out and give 100% week to week. What I will say, and what I've always said, is that when you are not going to make the playoffs, as much as it hurts to lose, it on paper is only good if you lose games. If you're not going to make the playoffs.
You're right about that, but
that is such a shallow thing to say. Like, I don't want that to be my opinion as a whole. That's not my entire opinion. That's just, if you're going into the draft, you want the least amount of picks because that means you get the best.
You're right. Ideally, that's what you want, and you want that as a fan as well too, because you look at,
if you lose every game, none of your good players will stay. There will be fighting in your locker room. There will be just a mess of a team. So you don't want to lose every game. You certainly want to win.
And that's exactly, and you got to kind of put the human element in it, where as a human, you go out there and you're competing. You want to win.
This isn't a logical sport.
No matter if you're trying to win that 1 out of 16 games, you want to win that game. You go out there every week, especially in a game like football. Every game means something, and if it doesn't mean something for this season, it means something for next season, for this guy's contract, for his job position. They want to keep their job.
This isn't a logical league. This isn't just a numbers league. It's not. You couldn't do Moneyball in the NFL. You just couldn't do it. There's a massive human element. There's guys from different cultures. There's a guy on our team from Africa. There's a guy on our team who worked as a farmhand, probably. There's a guy on our team from Texas. There's you know what I mean? There's a lot of different personalities. There's a lot of different pieces, and the human element is so big in an NFL locker room.
And I think that the team, like, after having that week off and with the changes, it just seems like they're coming out and they understand that aspect of it, and they're playing it as, one game at a time. And so far, stacking wins.
Yeah, it's working. This team is playing well, and they all, you see it in the locker room too. I bet you see it, Mike. The positivity that probably
so much happier after the win. So much, it's night and day. There would be no chance for me to go into the locker room after a loss and for there to be players left. I mean, if I go to the press conference after that's done, I'll head to the locker room after a win. Might be a couple guys. I'll talk to a few.
What do they got playing in there?
After a game, not a ton of music.
Not a ton of music.
In the Allen Park, it's usually
no Fetty Wap.
It's a lot. Usually a lot.
No Future.
A lot of Drake and Future in the practice facility for sure.
As long as they're having fun, I guess, after wins.
It depends on who's controlling the music, I guess. But yeah, for sure, you can tell that they're happy. There's a noticeable. These guys want to win. There's no doubt about it. I know that everyone was these guys quit, especially after the KC game. I don't think anyone's ever quit. I think people took some of Caldwell's stuff out of proportion when he said some guys maybe didn't give 100%. I mean, I think that these guys are all trying and they all want to win.
And we'll talk about winning a little bit more here. We got a question from my boy, Vince Longo. What do you guys think? Undefeated remainder of the season?
I love how we're all quiet, because all of us want to believe that it could happen, and it could happen, but in the reality, is it going to happen?
I think I'll go first here, and I'll say that I don't believe these 2 wins make me feel all that much better after going 1-7. I really don't. I think the last 2 wins, and I know I just talked about how this isn't a Moneyball league, but there is some money attached to NFL teams, and you have a lot of money spent on the offense. You have a lot of dollars, and you're not putting up 20 points. And for teams that have not that much money going into the offense, I think that you're okay with that as long as your defense is good. But you're paying way too much money to put up less than 20 points a game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And you're putting, and you're not winning by a lot either.
But you are winning.
You're winning, and that's why we're happy at the end of the day. But if I'm giving my opinion on the future of the rest of the season, I think that these wins have way too much negativity that I could point to. That's never a good sign, I think.
I don't know. So what would you say if you had to put a number on it? There's 6 games left.
I'll keep saying it. I've said 6-10 all season. I thought that they were going to lose this game, even though I earlier predicted that this would be a win. It looked like Oakland was the better team and they were favored. I mean, you have favorites and underdogs for a reason, but it is sport. I mean, you could run the table. It's not.
No, you definitely
impossible.
You definitely
as
could run.
Improbable as it is. I don't think it will happen. No.
Mike?
No, I don't think it'll happen. I mean, no.
Yeah, I'd have to be a madman to think
I mean, it could, but the Miami Dolphins. Remember when they went 2-0 after they fired their coach and Dan Campbell's like the darling of the NFL and stuff, and now they're like just they're a disaster again.
Oh boy, PC principal.
I need this now. What's interesting for the Lions is they have 2 more home games.
Yes.
And one of them against the Packers, and I mean, even Philadelphia might give them problems, but if they can manage to gain some momentum with these 2 games, and then even after the Packers game, if they happen to win the next 2, it's like a little mini bye week again. They get to get their mind right, their body right, and, maybe, but I would put it at like a 5% chance that they run the table. And that might even be an aggressive number.
So of the remaining 6 games, what do you think, realistically?
I don't know. I think that anywhere from 2 to 4 more wins is realistic.
Like, we look at it, so of the next 2 at home, you see a split happening potentially?
It's going to be tough to beat the Packers, certainly. So a split is probably best case scenario. I think everyone's picking them to beat Philadelphia. I wouldn't get too far ahead of myself about that. I mean, they're going to put a lot of stress on that defense.
Yeah, definitely they are. After that, we got St. Louis,
which is
New Orleans.
I mean,
San Francisco, and the Bears again, right?
The Bears are a different team. It seems
they definitely are.
So I mean, that's a tough matchup.
And that's in Chicago.
You have the Saints, who are potentially going to be playing for a lot on the line with how their division.
And you're going to be playing keep up in that game. That's all it is. It's just keep up.
The Saints' defense has been terrible, but now they've fired their defensive coordinator. Maybe they go through a bit of a resurgence. Yeah. Who knows? But
their offense is still the same, and 20 points is going to get you a loss, even with their current defense. Right? They're putting up 40. Didn't they put up 50 points in the game? They were close to 50 one week.
They lit up the Giants.
The Saints, yeah. They're 2 weeks in a row, didn't they?
Yeah, but then they laid an egg against...
so it's keep up.
Who was it again? They laid against those Redskins. So, I mean, I don't know. And then you look at St. Louis, who's the opposite of the Saints. They have a kind of a struggling offense, although they're really talented at the skill positions on offense, but the quarterback play has been rough. And then
Gurley was leading the league, wasn't he, in rushing?
I don't know if he's leading the league because he was too many games, but he's been like a week, every single week he's done something, whether score a touchdown, go for a whole bunch of yards.
And don't forget the arm-breaking machine.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to go with.
Boy, Aaron Donald.
The Rams have been so good at home on defense that the offensive line is playing better and stuff, but that's a scary potential game for the Lions offense and Stafford in general about the potential damage maybe inflicted there.
You better not hurt my quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back.
I'm
gonna go back and not draft.
Don't think that Aaron Donald doesn't know the Lions passed him up in the draft.
That's the sort of thing.
Sure. There's a chip on his shoulder.
That's the sort of thing that you remember. Yeah. You remember the every other team that could have.
You know who else they passed up? They passed up Robert Quinn. They pretty much passed up. And then Nick Fairley's on. They passed up on the whole defensive line in St. Louis. Let's just say that. Nick Fairley's there.
They're all upset.
Aaron Donald. They drafted Fairley over Quinn. Ironically, they have both of them now.
St. Louis is getting
I'm really
upset.
curious to see in the offseason if the Lions are going to go back and try and bring Fairley back. Because he is a free agent. He's like one of the top guys that's available next year in free agency that we potentially could target. I'm just kind of curious to see if he might come back.
I mean, you never know. They're going to need defensive tackles, so you never know what they're going to do. I have no idea. Plus, it's a new general manager, so whatever the previous ones thought about.
So we're in agreement that we're running the table.
No, hold on.
We're running the table. We're going to finish 9-7, and we're squeaking into the playoffs.
Vince took the time out of his busy day, and he wants to know from all of us here at Sustained Pride. So I guess it would be your turn. So
I just told you we're going to run the table.
We're running the table.
No, we're not running the table. But
it's been said.
I do believe
locked.
That it's locked. It's my lock pick of the week. I do believe that I may be a little bit more optimistic, a little more of a Lions slappy, where I feel like they're building something decent. I don't think they're going to run the table, but I do see them potentially finishing 6-10, 7-9.
So I think that at the end of the day, we all agree that there's still a lot to fix. Winning feels good. Yeah, but there's still a lot to fix.
Week by week, I'm happy this week. Hopefully, I'll be happy by the end of Thursday, but we'll see.
Yeah.
2 weeks isn't a trend. I want to see them beat Philadelphia before I buy into anything going forward.
So, let's talk about Philadelphia coming in. We'll jump to that. It's this week, this Thursday. Chip Kelly's different offense, I guess we could say.
This was the fear about Haloti Nana. This game was the one that we pointed to and said, okay, this could be kind of a matchup nightmare for our defense specifically.
They love the no-huddle offense. Seems like they like to put in different quirks into their offense.
High pace. That's what I'm saying. They're gonna put a lot of stress on the defense, and so I mean, you have players in the secondary that I think can keep up with a high octane offense, but the defensive line has.
The closer you get to the defensive line,
and even the linebackers,
the more out of shape the players become, and that's kind of the thought process behind calling so many plays so quickly. Is if you want to put a run stopper out there who weighs a lot, he's gonna be on the field for a while.
Who's going to be playing quarterback this week? Do we even know? I heard Sam Bradford is
Chip Kelly.
He passed concussion protocol, so
I'm okay with Mark Sanchez. I'll just put that out there if he wants to play. I wouldn't mind that.
It would be interesting for Stafford to go against Bradford, the 2 first overall picks in back-to-back years. But
Sanchez was also drafted.
Sanchez was Stafford's draft year.
Stafford's draft year.
it
So
was the big is Sanchez better than Stafford?
So I think we've kind of covered that.
Yeah.
They're both in the NFL right now, so
They are. Both started a game last week as well, too. So,
Only one of them won.
but
only one of them should.
so what do we think about this game? Are we fearing Philadelphia because of like their different approach to offense, or do we feel that our defense, past our defensive line is going to excel?
They have a different approach to offense, but they don't have a really successful one.
No, they don't, and that's the thing too. Yeah,
It doesn't really work too well.
They're only a game up on us. They've lost 3 of the last 4.
I think it's every fan's dream to run the no-huddle offense, the quick offense. Every fan thinks their quarterback can do it. Why aren't we doing this? It works in the last 2 minutes. Well, Chip Kelly's the guy who's brave enough to do it.
Well, and the thing too, you talk about us being a team that can barely score 20 points. They're only scoring about 23 a game.
And they get how many more snaps? If you looked at the stats of how many snaps they get a game, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, they get a lot of yardage, it seems like, but they're not scoring a lot of points.
So I am completely unsure of how our defense will hold up against their offense, or if you want to reword it, how their offense will succeed against kind of any NFL team, because they haven't really.
Jordan Matthews versus Darius Slay. That's going to be the prime time
matchup
there. If it's really prime time.
They do have 2 good running backs who are. I think Matthews might be performing as well as he kind of has, but I know that
Matthews has been pretty. I feel like
DeMarco Murray has kind of been
him.
underperforming. So
I feel like he's played better the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I just feel like they haven't been using him that much, and you kind of look at that where it's like games where he's underperforming is because he's getting 10 snaps.
Yeah. They have Darren Sproles too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they do have a three-headed monster there.
A lot of big weapons. Just it's never seemed to work. I mean, maybe they just haven't had a good quarterback. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
We'll see how it goes.
They've went through a lot of quarterbacks and since he's been there, and I'm not sure. But I don't know if you guys want to continue on the offense, but I have a bit to say about their defense.
Yeah, for sure. No, go ahead. Talk about the defense.
So we talked about Maxwell, a guy who I thought was one of the worst cornerbacks that I'd ever seen, is matched up against Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson has to have at least 11 catches this game. He should torch the earth that Maxwell walks on. And I'm not even joking, man. Like, this should be a massacre for Calvin Johnson.
I don't know if they're going to put Maxwell on an island with him, though.
Oh, no. I would assume double coverage, but, I mean, the in-between routes where Stafford hit some beauties this week, too, to that 10 to 15 yard mark, just fitting it in those windows. If the safety allows it, that should be there all day. I don't see Maxwell being able to stop Calvin from getting those 10 to 15 yard catches.
We'll see. I mean, I think that Cooter did a great job last week of leveraging the attention Calvin was getting on several plays, including the Stafford touchdown, but also some other really creative play calls. So we'll see how it goes, but I mean, it's they have a good defense. I understand you're hating on Maxwell, and I
Yeah,
understand that
I'm saying that
averaged
specifically. We have that matchup won, I think.
that one specific matchup.
That one specific matchup is ours. We have that chess piece is ours. That pawn.
It's a pretty
taken.
good chess piece to have as well.
I would say it's queen against pawn. It's our best piece against their worst.
I have a queen against 2 pawns. Isn't this?
I think the queen probably wins.
Pawns aren't much. They can
Pawns aren't much.
move in specific positions where the queen.
I don't want to say
gets
that
around.
I don't want to say that their safety play are pawns. I haven't watched enough of them.
Definitely.
But I will say that Maxwell at this point is just not good.
So short week. Let's kind of
For both teams.
let's kind of get it to our picks, because our picks are what matter on the show. Now that I'm 1-0 in the past week, so what do you say?
I say that this one, I think we will lose, and the reason being is because I just don't trust that we have the personnel on defense that we can. We have guys flooding in and out on drives. We have to move pieces throughout the drive, and this team doesn't let you do that. Nada, if he gets caught on the field, he will be gasping for air at times, and most defensive tackles do. But this is the importance of like a great defensive tackle like Sue, is that anyone who wants to run the 2-minute offense, Sue can stay out there, and I don't think that Nada can. And I think that throughout the game, our rush defense that we haven't really had to worry about too much, I think that will kind of be exploited.
Okay, Mike, what do you think?
I'm curious to see how the defense does too. I think that a bit of a preseason darling was Corona Reed, and I don't think he's played great this year, but he's definitely the at least from my perspective, definitely is a strong word, but he seems to be in the best shape of all the defensive tackles. He has a high motor. You can see him give high effort on every play, even the plays where he doesn't do a great job. So I think that he's someone that can eat some snaps for you.
And Jones should be playing inside as well.
And he'll take some snaps, but he'll still primarily play defensive tackle. So I mean, I'm curious to see this stuff. I want to see how the offense does if they continue to take steps forward, because I do think that even though they didn't generate a whole bunch of points, there was observable progression against last week against Oakland. Why can't I say they get that word going?
It's all good, baby.
You don't want to remember Oakland.
Nobody
wants to think
I don't have to remember this for 4 years from now. Anyway.
They call it a black. They call it a black hole for a reason.
But anyway, with all that said, I can't buy in too much within 2 weeks. I'm gonna say loss, but if they win this game, then I'll start to become a bit of a believer, I think.
All right. Well,
I think I kind of am starting to believe. I just think that you can lose games too. It's not.
No, you definitely can lose
if
games.
you're a good team, it doesn't mean you don't lose games, and we've certainly lost a lot. So we can lose games, and I think that probably. I just feel this week after 2 wins, Yeah.
I definitely I agree with you guys on a lot of your points. I feel like I have the worries when it comes to that.
We say winnable game a lot, and I never kind of agree with that tag, but I think you're probably right if you want to throw that on this week.
It definitely is a winnable game. I like I said, I agree with you guys on what you're saying, and I do kind of worry about the defense being out there against this offense, and I feel like I'm going to be the white knight, and I'm going to come out and again say that the Lions are going to win this week. I don't think it's going to be a game that the defense is going to win. I think it's going to be a game that the offense is going to win. I'm not saying that I'm buying into it, but like we have seen progression. I do feel that some of the matchups are in our favor, whereas you look at the defensive matchups are in their favor as well too. I feel like it's going to be a game that might be a little bit high scoring. We might actually see the chains kind of like moving a lot this week, and I don't know. I think they're gonna win. I'm gonna come out because you forced me to say something.
I don't force you.
So
there's no gun. First of all, I know there's no visual to this audio podcast, but there's not a gun in sight.
No,
there's no weapons being held to your. Your life is not in danger. You're making this prediction on your own.
Yeah, I'm making the prediction.
Don't put your voodoo on me.
I'll tell you, if anybody plays Pro Line or anything like that, plays pools, box out the game, don't bet on the Lions, no matter what, even if you believe they're going to win.
I don't think it would be bad to bet on the Lions actually this week, especially if they're underdogs. They might
be favorites. I haven't seen it, but knowing how Philadelphia got a little bit
Philadelphia
the final
is
scores, but they had a rough week last week. You know what this?
and their franchise kind of in disarray too.
I made this comparison earlier in the year, which is funny because I don't want to keep bringing it up. But this reminds me a little bit of the Arizona game from a few years ago, where Arizona got just destroyed by Seattle, and the Lions were a bit struggling, but everyone's like they can beat Arizona.
And
That
we
was
lost to Drew Stanton.
That was KC, wasn't it?
Was that 2 years ago?
I don't think that was the Drew Stanton.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember though. Maybe it was.
Was it the 13-9 or something like that? Was that the loss?
I
We
can't
lost?
remember. They lost. I can't remember
It
the
was
score.
against Stanton.
Arizona lost like 50-0 the previous
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we lost
Because
I think,
Kurt
13-9
Warner
or
got
something stupid.
Kurt Warner got hurt.
I
and
don't
then
think Kurt
Stanton-
Warner.
No, it was Carson Palmer. It was a few
That,
years
that's
ago.
that's it.
It was a
Carson
few years ago.
Palmer-
I think it was the 4-12 year, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't remember either.
Potentially. Yeah, because it was...
Or was it the 7-9
It was
year? I think it was the 7-9 year where they were slipping in the end of the year, trying to look like they were in the driver's seat.
It was the
6-3.
Schwartz firing year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then-
So it was 2 years ago.
Everyone thought they could win this game. They were in a bit of a slide, but they felt good about the opponent and they could break out of it, and they just dropped the ball.
Well, isn't that what happened this year too? Where I feel like we said it was a potentially winnable game, even though we knew Arizona was a really good team. And I'm probably the person who led this, saying that they could win the game, and they got blown out. And it was one of the worst losses in the history of
That's
Detroit
a bad loss.
football sports. So I don't know. So we got
a little bit of a history on the Lions. A little bit of a history lesson, and if you've been paying attention to the recent history of this podcast, we mentioned that we were going to do the who we thought was going to take over the quarterback. We'll probably push that because it's a short week. We'll just push it to next week. And
Yeah, we will push it to next week. There is one thing that we did speak about on the rundown, and I just want to touch on it for a few minutes. We can kind of see everyone's opinion here. So the Lions broadcast partner is 97.1 for all the games. It's been that for 18 years. And this week it came out that the Lions are moving to AM radio. I believe it's WWJ is going to be broadcasting all the Lions games. And now speculation has come out that the reason why is that a radio host for 97.1 allegedly, yeah, it's like I said it's speculative. We don't know. We don't know, but the biggest thing is that the Lions came out and asked this radio station multiple times over their partnership to fire this person because of the things that he was saying in terms of the team and such. Like I listen to the radio station, and I feel that he is. His name is Mike Valenti, obviously. I feel that he's a straightforward guy. He comes out, he calls it like he sees it. There's no malice in the reasoning of him doing things. He's not doing things to get under the Lions team. He's just calling it like he sees it. He calls for change because he feels that this team needs change. And I know it's tough because a lot of people don't know the inside stories. We don't know the inside stories. We're just kind of talking about it because it became national news. You said we're seeing on BuzzFeed?
No.
Or
BuzzFeed, God.
Oh, yeah. Wait,
No. That's...
Were you swiping on Tinder? Did you find it on there? Did you see a little...
Yeah, there's no... God,
Rod
no.
Wood would be a good profiling.
Allegedly on BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed's pure trash. No, it was on Deadspin, which they do take kind of a bit of. They're not like the most, and I don't know if it's warranted. They're not the most respected sports site. I think that some of that is because they're not really affiliated with a more.
Are you saying that they're like a Bleacher Report?
No, but they're not. I think they kind of get attacked because they're not an institution.
I don't know how.
Sports.
I don't know
isn't
much about them, but I don't know how trustworthy all of their stories
That's
are.
what I'm trying to get to.
Like, I don't know if they have sources that they
Of course,
vet.
the media guy. The media guy that belongs to more of the instituted way of going about it kind of feels that way. And I understand that feeling. And if it's kind of like us right now, we're not really an institution, but we do have someone who works in the locker room, so that gives us a little bit of an inside view to things. Whereas if someone is in halfway across the world and they want to write for Deadspin, it's a little bit different. But I don't want to say that they're not a good site.
They go to Deadspin. The story. They just reported.
They reported it. I'm
I'm
not trying to give them like super credit, but they put it on their site, and that's something that the nation reads.
And that's exactly it too. And I think it kind of brings some attention.
And what I would say about the situation is that I'll talk about people doing their jobs. And Mike Valenti was doing his job If you listen, I don't listen to him often.
Yeah,
I don't.
I listen to him almost every day.
But I know that from what I've heard from him in the past, whether I'm listening to him talk about Michigan State, whether I'm listening to him talk about the Tigers, there's no difference show to show.
No.
If you're losing, he's going to talk negatively about you because losing is a negative thing.
Yeah.
He's doing his job. If we want to look at it the other way, the Detroit Lions are not doing their job. They're not winning games. They're not a successful organization. And if allegedly what they're saying is that's the reason, it's a bit unfair. But life's not fair. The Detroit Lions get to do what they want. They're not doing anything illegal. They're just taking their business elsewhere.
And ultimately, that is what it is. You can take your business elsewhere, and maybe hard feelings were there too, and that's the reason why this story has become so big, at least in the local area.
And maybe it's nothing personal at all. Maybe the Lions as an organization just have a difference of view and think that they will get more listenership somewhere else. Maybe they just prefer the other company better. I mean, I don't think it's as big of an issue. I think that this organization has a lot of positive things attached to it. We don't have cheerleaders for positive reasons. We don't exploit stuff like that. And I think that out of the NFL teams, if you look at a lot of the stuff like that came out about paying for pride, about the Army and stuff like that, about paying the soldiers to come. If you look to the top 10 or like the top of the list, the Lions are always at the bottom of the list for like negative kind of organization stuff like that. And they're not perfect. They're run by human beings.
I kind of feel like the Lions are an old school organization. I feel like they have that old world mentality, that's why it's good in some areas, and it might be a little negative in other areas, but the overall it's not bad.
If I hated this organization, I would not. There would be no reason to keep watching them. Like, I kind of do enjoy the organization. I think that like they try to hold themselves. They might not do it right. They might fail miserably, but I think that there are a lot. There are some owners out there that I just can't stand. Like Jerry Jones, I can't stand him. I think that like he does things the wrong way. He tries to like sexualize the game and stuff like that, and it's
exactly when you come up with comments about
and like
Greg Hardy and saying he's a leader and everything
stuff like that. I don't want to touch on that type of stuff because it is touchy, but I do respect the fact that I have an organization that is kind of massive in terms of American history, and like there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of things that I can point to and say that like I'm proud of this organization. They don't continuously put out a good football product, and that's one of the main things. And I think that would be my message: is just do your job, and you haven't been doing it. So
yeah, and that's where the frustration lies. Is if you come out, you do your job, you do everything you can to produce something good. Then I can respect that.
If it was because of Valenti, like if they didn't like him talking negatively about their team, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. But I think that you kind of have to say Mike Valenti was doing his job because he does the same thing like I was saying before. He does it with Michigan State, any other team.
Oh yeah, like he talks about the Giants, and that's his team, and he talks about all the bad that there is to them, and he's a very job. He's doing his job, and he focuses a lot on the negative. He's more of a glass half empty when he's looking at an organization, and he'll tell you the good parts, but mostly he'll talk about the bad parts. But that's the yin and the yang of the show that they have. Terry is one way, and Mike's another way, and I think that it's kind of crazy to think that this became such a huge story. You know what I mean? And it's like nobody knows the actual in and outs. That might have been one small cog in the reason why they didn't sign. It all probably came down to money.
It's all baby media.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk about big boy media right now. Mike Media, where can they follow you at?
At Lions Report.
That's right. And you can read many articles on him. He writes. How often do you release your article?
You can definitely get some stuff immediately after game day. I'll get a ton of tweets from me on game day, and just periodically through the week, just check it out. And if you have an interesting thing that you'd like to read about or me to ask, just tweet it to me too.
Yeah, definitely. You can find a link to him always on our Twitter page. We always follow.
And if you're listening to us, I mean, go and check out the Insider at Work. Go see where he lives on Twitter and at Lions Report, and read his articles if you think that you want to read more into his opinions and what he's saying on the show. He's in the locker room. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, check us out at sustainedpridepodcast.com. Special thanks to our super fan
Vince Longo, my boy
Blue. Thank everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.